이렇게란 모든 게 통제당하죠.
Explain to me about the power of the fans.
Too powerful.
Too powerful.
Yeah. Too much.
I just remember thinking, wow, I have to lie about my whole identity to be in this group. Like, is it even right? I felt bad, like even, lying about it.
No. 厳しいものはないんじゃないかなって私は思います。
If you really thought you could escape what you are, what you did, you would have told her the truth.
A mistake. You have been since the day you were born.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I had heard basically nothing about this going into it. At first I thought it was a TV show, and then all I had seen was this one GIF being spammed like incessantly. But I was told I should actually watch it, that it's legit decent. So I went and did, and after the first watch I was pretty impressed, not only with the music but with the story, especially for such a short movie. Then again, I don't watch many movies, so maybe I'm just easily impressed, but I still had a lot of remarks either way, so that's what this video is. Starting off, I'll give you just the general intro or pitch for the movie. A K-pop girl group trio lives double lives as demon hunters, coming from generations of singers who are tasked with maintaining the spiritual gate to their country, which is called the Hunmoon, and they're faced with competing with a rival K-pop group, a boy band called the Saja Boys. All the while, one of Huntrix's members holds a dark secret. That's it. I'm gonna spoil the whole thing for this because even if you haven't seen it, spoilers don't impact your enjoyment of this sort of movie, considering it's so short that there's hardly any twists, and after multiple rewatches, for me, the enjoyment remains the same whether you know everything or you don't. Okay? Now, what initially pushed me to make a video about this was just plainly for the music, as this is in fact a musical, and that's what this sort of analysis is mostly centered around. Music as ritual, as a beacon of vice and industry and all that, but also just...
It came into this more larger thing about entertainment and the human condition, and then so.
Yeah, that's what you should expect. Now, to set the stage, I'm not into musicals really at all. The only one I've ever seen, really, I guess unless you're counting Disney movies, is Hamilton, because I knew Daveed Diggs from Clipping, and I knew Lin-Manuel Miranda from Electric Company. So that's why I was even entertaining that. K-pop, I listened to a decent bit, some Blackpink, aespa, RM rapping over J Dilla beats, NCT followed by whatever 3 characters you prefer. But the thing is, as I'm writing this, I'm listening to like Che, Yeet, Ken Carson, so in some ways I'm not at all the target audience, but in other ways I very much am, because this movie has a decent amount of depth that's great for just music enthusiasts in general and people who just enjoy it for what it is. Okay, so now we can start. Music holds a lot of significance spiritually for a lot of people in a lot of cultures. They all have vastly different perspectives on it, but in all instances, it means something. So when I actually understood what this movie was about, aside from what I had been previewed, I was actually ready to take it serious because I saw potential for something, intellectually stimulating. During the first watch, I was really sitting, and really all my watches, I was sitting very attentively, hitting a gamer lean forward just to make sure I capture everything going on in the story and in the background and with the sound design and everything. Didn't want to miss a bit of story or symbolism because, off the bat they hit you with the exposition in the opening, and it's like, they explain the system of how the Guardians evolved, showing each generation getting their hunters who play into different styles of music, and it's adapted to the tastes and the needs of the time. It was pretty good going into that. It starts off with the chosen era of Korea, and the hunters as a concept are basically mudang, which are shamans, practitioners of Korean shamanism. The belief system that this movie is mainly centered around as well. It's a polytheic religion that revolves around spirits and deities. It's a very old practice, and without a central authority around the religion, beliefs and practices, of course, will vary a lot. But ritual is a big part of it. The Guts rituals are about cleansing, prosperity, and are to be renewed often. They protect people from spiritual manipulation, soul loss. All of this is achieved through choreographed song and dance, which is effectively what our hunters do. We imagine that the styles of music evolve from traditional to trot through different decades of Korean popular music to eventually what we know as K-pop today with our main characters. If you want more information on each of the generations showcased and what they're based off of, Kim and Draws has a blog post that breaks down each of them, each of the groups, and their references, so check that out if you want more info. But what I took note of specifically was their choice of color, because they're always in trios, and they've always got this red, yellow, and blue thing going. And the taeguk, which is seen in the Korean flag, for example, a cosmological symbol for balance, has a tricolor variant, which is composed of red, yellow, and blue. This color combination can be seen on the clothes they wear individually or some sort of mix. It's not always there, or later on it's more subtly implemented, but either way, that was an interesting detail I noticed. So let's go into the hunters of today, and while we're there, we're also going to discuss the other idol group and how they contrast. Huntrix is our group. The members are as follows. Mira, the visual of Huntrix. Visual, when it comes to the K-pop industry, means the one most in line with the Korean beauty standard. She's the member with the most edge, and is also
kind of a difficult person. Overly blunt, short-fused, highly aggressive.
The name Mira is of Indo-European origin and often means wonderful, kind, or the ocean and sort of ideas around it like limits and boundaries. So the ocean as a boundary. Zoe is the writer and rapper for the group. She fits the trope of the American Korean from California turns K-pop idol and is generally bubbly and youthful, the youngest member. Zoe is a Greek name meaning life and has been in the top 100 baby names in the USA since 2008. Rumi, the leader of Huntrix, a modest yet driven woman whose big ambition is to achieve the golden honeymoon with her bandmates, to keep out the demon king Gima for good. Kima is like evil ghost in a sense. But here's the thing, Rumi is part demon. Her mom was a hunter, so she comes from a generation of hunters, but her dad was a demon. Origin story left out, short movie, don't really need to get into detail anyway. They probably got slimed out or something, you know. Of Japanese origin, Rumi can be written a variety of ways in their script, and can mean various things as a result. Beauty or water, like the things associated with water as well, such as the currents or lapis, that's what Rumi means. They are also accompanied by their predecessor Celine and their manager Bobby. For the fans.
For the fans!
All under a collective motivation of doing it for the fans. We hear that a lot in the movie. It's their raison d'etre not only as entertainers, but as guardians. Huntrix is this sort of idealized version of K-pop, maybe. You know, your idols care about you, they're more than careerists, they want to deliver a quality product, and as characters, Huntrix is this sort of amalgam of different archetypes within the K-pop industry. You have the edgy rebel, you have your English is very good.
Dude, your English was so good. Dude, I'm Canadian.
You speak great English though, man. Yeah. How did you learn English?
I'm American, so yeah, there you go, surprise. Yeah.
And the sober role model that keeps them all grounded. But that's also, you know, that's how you write characters, give them dynamics and such, you know, five-man band, da-da-da-da-da. We've all watched overly sarcastic productions, so. But you also notice how they all do still have characterizations as people, you know, names, some depth, at least. This contrasts our antagonist boy group, the Saja Boys.
A demon boy band?
Our members are as follows. Abby, the attractive one. Baby, the young one. Mystery, the mysterious one. romance, the romantic one, Jinwoo, the Jinwoo one. Except this guy has a real name, and of course, as a result, has an origin story. 400 years ago, he was a broke boy out in Korea with his family, and he eventually made it out the slums. Only thing is, he made an Illuminati pact and had to slime out his family to get it done. The 1600s in Korea, still in the Chosun dynasty, came after a 6-year war with Japan, who invaded in 1592, then the later Jin invasion into the country in 1627. Jinwoo would have been living in, assuming that he was in like the first half of the century, in a rough period for his country. Constant war and struggle and strife. So that sort of further contextualizes his actions. He wasn't just like poor out of nowhere, very much a victim of his circumstance at the time, and not much he could really do about it. The name Jinwoo is of Korean origin and means truth, companionship, and integrity. In terms of the other members, they're sort of stand-ins for this idea of some classical elements of K-pop somehow. You know, instead of earth, water, fire, air, it's these assets. With Jinwoo being this fifth element, that quintessential part being the drive, struggle, and hustle of an idol. The background, the lore that gives them that attachment factor that you latch onto as a viewer, as a fan. But otherwise, still, as a whole, the Saja Boys kind of represent the most surface level and commercial aspect of idols under the K-pop industry and what they're valued for. Standing opposite to huntrix, who are genuine and complex, trying to make the best music they can, the boys are tailored for mass appeal, exploiting your base instincts and desires in order for them to succeed. When the cameras are off, so is the mask. I mean, it's kind of obvious, only one of the members has a real name. There's no veil of authenticity. Partially, you know, to streamline the narrative a bit more for audiences. Movie's not even an hour and a half long, but it's also, you know, halfway a commentary on the industry itself. I think a lot of us see the K-pop industry as a bunch of clip farming Saja Boys. We are cynical and weary to the cute moments and fan service that they give us, especially when you listen to their music, and it's like, whatever. The performance of an idol is something we see as fake, disingenuous, and exploitative. Of course, neither group demonstrates the reality of the K-pop industry. There are groups, or even people-by-people cases, who demonstrate either tendency, a mix of both. You know, it's not ones and zeros. But in terms of the overall portrayal of the K-pop industry in the movie, it's caught up on numbers, sales, being number one.
Every snowflake is special, but one snowflake is probably the best.
The need to perform and put on constantly, interact with fans, signings, meetups, what is it called, the high touch? For our hunters, this does make a lot of sense because part of the process of upkeeping the Hunmoon, the seal, they have to win over and channel the souls of the population, only being able to turn gold after reaching critical mass with their audience and their people. And inversely, the Saja Boys prey on the listeners, allowing the demons to take over them, so the interaction is also very much necessary for them in order to manipulate. You know, they show up on the TVs, they got the merch, the soda, whatever, you know. It's overall quite allegorical to the consumerist and idolatrous tendencies within K-pop culture. Buying every physical release, photo cards, streaming, sleep streaming, Justin Bieber yummy sleep streaming, we still remember that. Like, you're not even listening to the music. Who cares if your favorite artist gets 100 million streams if you are asleep for half of those listens, for 80% of those listens? Their streams are botted, and you, the fan, are the bot.
The botness and cringeness that y'all have created in this matrix is immortal.
Gima is fueled by insecurities and shame. The concept of inner demons rather than a dude with a pointy tail who pokes you with a pitchfork. He also plays a part in this K-pop industry allegory because it's the people who have insecurities, maybe aren't the most self-actualized, that are most susceptible to the predatory marketing within the industry itself. The ones who will stream the most, buy the most merchandise to win fan calls or special edition cards. And, you know, it's like your life maybe isn't so great, or you consider the idols better than you at least, so much that you need to give them your time, your energy, and money to live through them, and you're not really necessarily getting anything back out of them through that exchange. There's definitely ways to get stuff out of them, of course, but through that sort of commercial exchange, you're not getting anything out of them. You're essentially being siphoned. This aspect of K-pop fandom was kind of fought back against when it came to Wangyongism, a movement from some years back, a self-care movement inspired by the IVE member that promoted healthy living habits and becoming your best self, discipline, ambition, confidence, yet with a sense of gratitude and an acknowledgement and appreciation for every blessing that comes your way, no matter how small.
저는 사소한 거일지라도 그냥 어떻게 보면 너무 사소해서 그냥 지나칠 수 있는 것도 하나하나 다 좀 감사하게 느끼고 예쁘다고 생각하면 좀 럭키비키한 하루를 보낼 수 있는 것 같습니다. 오늘도 럭키비키한 하루 보내세요.
But what's K-pop without the music? So let's get into that next. The first song we're introduced to is Huntrix's How It's Done, a very Blackpink sounding song, a choice that's obviously reflective of the fact that Blackpink is one of the most influential to the propagation of K-pop in the West, most recognizable sounds, paved the way, yada yada yada. But Blackpink also has that sort of strength and girl bossiness that fits into the introduction of the group as hunters, you know, they're fierce and all that. Overall, it has this HBCU marching band's flair that's very anthemic, easy for a big crowd to participate in, and that rallying nature is what helps the group initiate the reinforcing of the Hunmoon. That's when they see the initial gold particles. And here are some lyrical elements that stood out to me either way. The line illustrates how the position of royalty isn't all it's cracked up to be. It doesn't make the world revolve around you, but rather your world revolve around everyone else. Being in a position of responsibility requires humility, a quality of Rumi, able to consider others' needs. You know, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So I thought that was a fitting line for her as a character. Napalm era is kind of crazy, considering its usage in the Korean War especially. One of the cruelest weapons ever devised, very poisonous, affects civilians, and is not even banned for the most part. Quite an extreme bar, but you know, it does highlight the lethality as part of their routine, as the workload of hunters involves being, you know, as lethal as napalm, I guess. Also, not to cinema sins, but what happened to the bits of the plane that fell out of the sky? Did they land in the ocean, a river, the house of an innocent bystander? As they arrive into the stadium, they come down like meteors with a celestial glow, sort of furthering their supernatural nature as well. After the success of their live show, Huntrix is supposed to go on break. You know, the thing Cardi does for years after every album release. But our leader Rumi is so locked in that she pushes out a new single, Golden, a song about self-realization and how Huntrix as a unit can be comfortable and thrive without hiding their potentially undesirable traits. In fact, it is those things that lead them to prospering in their careers. And this song is key in setting up the conflict for our main character, because she, Rumi, can't perform it. Since she has been hiding the fact that she's part demon, she isn't actually in tune with the song's message in the same way her bandmates are. It also, of course, refers to the golden state of the Hunmoon, but Rumi's struggle is a major aspect of how this song is integrated into the movie. She's the one hiding in shame, and it's catching up to her, the veil is slipping, eventually you trip. Darkness comes to light and all that, you get it. In the second verse, her mentality is, I can change, I can free myself from these traits, and become who I should be, who everyone perceives me as, canceling out the lies through the methodology of fake it till you make it, but as we know, that didn't work because people don't change.
People don't change. They might want to, they need to.
Taub gave up a 6-figure plastic surgery career for this job. That mean he has porphyria?
Later on, we get introduced to the Saja Boys performing in this sort of flash mob within the city plaza, just appearing out of nowhere, performing the song Soda Pop. Maybe your most standard sounding boy group song, with a tad of Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, and is low-key just as lurid, gaudy, and dare I say trashy. It sounds harsh. The song isn't actually bad or anything, but it's clearly manufactured for that mass appeal that the group is, you know, based around. It's very compatible with shopping.
So many products. So many SKUs. So many SKUs. Look at all these SKUs. Oh, so many products.
So much merchandising, so many barcodes.
I love this mall. Look at this place. I mean, look at this place. They have everything. Everything's here.
It's jejune, safe, not meant to be thought-provoking. It's full of cheap audio stims that almost trick you into liking the song. Of course, a song doesn't have to be challenging to listen to or revolutionize music to be good, but I think it's good to recognize what aspects of a song are appealing to you. My enjoyment of Soda Pop comes from the captivating production, the bubbles, the pouring sounds, the glass breaking sound effects, the bullet casing, the pop top, you know, all of that. Its place within the narrative is notable as well because it alludes to their malicious intents and the soul-sucking nature in a somewhat subtle way. Every drop I drink up, take a big bite, you know? It's a song about the listener, you. These gustatory references are ways the demons consume and feed off the people on the surface. You can also sort of condition yourself into hearing the line, every sit makes me want more, into every sin makes me want more, because they drop the P on the end of the word, hardly pronounced. Maybe a reach, maybe intentional, I don't know. But the real tell-all lyric though is, which firstly expands upon the demon's modus operandi, bringing in the key detail of the exchange. You cannot lose your soul to the demons unless you have a weakness to exploit, that being the shame and longing for succor, sus, and really anything from the esteem to safety layers of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But secondly, can also be extended to the K-pop industry as a whole. An idol is nothing without its admirers. They rely on your obsession to succeed, a devotion that is to forever be upheld through streams and sales, at least until the idols get a life where their fans end up feeling betrayed. Again, keep in mind though, that these fans are very young, not everyone is in the best situation, people could be looking for an escape, a reason, a figure to seek solace in. Also, the K-pop idols themselves don't even really benefit from this system. They're often stalked, aren't allowed to speak their minds, not allowed to date, and at the end of the day are sometimes still broke. The real benefactors of the K-pop industry are the labels and the executives. And you know, South Korea's GDP, I guess. The Saja Boys are collecting souls to give to Gima, not for their own profit. The fruits of their labor are not equitably redistributed. Saja is also being exploited. Basically, Gima is the label. In an attempt to combat the Saja Boys, Huntrix decide to write a diss track.
Not like us.
Which, first off, is interesting because in real life, we've seen that a diss track is more than just a battle of I don't like you and you don't like me. It can be a battle for the collective conscious. And that's what Takedown in part is about. It's telling the Lion Dudes that they won't win over the hearts of the people, that they're frauds, and it's to deconstruct their facade and expose them to the audience. But to be honest, my immediate reaction to the song was, I know you're not talking Rumi, you're one of them. It's almost hypocritical, and it reminded me of this popular, yet presumably fake, quote attributed to scholar Imam al-Ghazali. The quote basically goes, declare your jihad on 13 enemies. those you cannot see, that being egoism, arrogance, conceit, selfishness, greed, lust, intolerance, anger, lying, cheating, gossiping, slandering. And if you can master those and destroy them, then you will be able to fight the enemy you can see. 12 plus 1 adding up to 13. Granted, you know, his work is very existentialist and deals with the naf, self, ego, soul. So that quote isn't like entirely wrong based off of his philosophy, but it's more an extension on it rather than a real quote, at least that I could find a citation for. Granted, he has a lot of books. I haven't read all of them, but for the sake of my point, I'm still gonna use it. Sorry. My integrity is running thin. Rumi has yet to fight the enemy of lies. Therefore, the song reflects the way Rumi sees herself, and even the way her bandmates see her too, without them even necessarily knowing. If you have not faced your inner demons and reached at least some sense of that self-actualization, what right do you have to attack and force others to confront their own? As an idol, one of your responsibilities is to lead by example, which Takedown is not an instance of. It's the wrong song for the group to perform. And it's quite funny, because that's what I had thought from first hearing it. We get small hints at it when she's rewriting the lyrics, but it's just quite funny. The assault on demons while Zoe and Mira don't even know that there's one amongst them.
Ugh, I can't wait until every one of them is destroyed and sent back to suffer with Kima for eternity. Right, Rumi?
Yeah, eternal suffering. Sounds fun.
Celine, do hunters kill all demons?
Yes.
So everything that has patterns?
We hate demons, and from the jump, Rumi has to follow along with these ideals. If she ever came out to her bandmates as a halfling, she fears that she'll get rejected. Or worse. When your pattern starts to show, it makes the hatred want to grow out of my veins. That line demonstrates the flaw in the song perfectly, because the demons are fueled by extreme emotions such as hate. So while you think you're fighting the demons, you're really letting them get to you, basically turning into one. You can't tell the difference between yourself and them at that point. And even the bridge, while on the surface calling out the Saja Boys, it's so obviously talking about Rumi, especially with the idea of people turning on you. So, when we got into the Idol Awards, and I saw the song get flipped on Rumi, and that being the trigger for the Darkest Hour sequence, I was so satisfied, because I knew I was right from the jump. Light work. Jinwoo and Rumi worked together on the track Free, a more low-key cut than the rest of the songs in the movie, but it's still just as important to the narrative, because it's in this moment in the story where they're able to connect and understand each other, antagonist and protagonist. Which, side note, I like the fact that Jinwoo's origin story, when told to Rumi, isn't a total lie, just more so whitewashed. Not good, of course, but rather than an attempt at deception, it's also in part like he's really truly ashamed of his actions and even now still can't admit it and let it go. Which in turn keeps him attached to Gima and is ultimately what leads to him failing. But still, at this point, they're both open, honest, free from the shackles of shame and are able to move forward. And that's basically what the song explains too, going into their dynamic, the hesitance, the potential for change. Rumi kind of also following in the footsteps of her mom by sympathizing and falling in love with the demon, essentially. Sadly, come to find out later, Jinwoo can't commit, not being fully transparent, and is also not fully trusting of Rumi's solution, which is kind of understandable. 400 years of conditioning would keep anybody stuck, even if they're offered a chance at freedom. The day of wrath. That day, you will turn to ashes. Cursed, I will burn forever. That is what the Latin translates to on the intro to the song Your Idol. It's a play on the first few lyrics of the Dies Irae, most known for its usage in the Catholic Requiem Mass of the Dead. At this point in the story, the Saja Boys seem unstoppable, so no need to be subtle. Everything I said about them and K-pop's idolatry is relayed in this song.
Keeping you obsessed, and anytime it hurts. Play another verse, I can be a sanctuary.
And now they're calling on the audience to give themselves up to them. You gave me your heart, now I'm here for your soul. But at this point, it's almost redundant. Preaching to the choir, they've already achieved it. As the song continues, Gima manifests himself on stage, bigger and stronger. Can you imagine the practice rehearsals that were going on in the underworld? Did they have like a professional choreographer? Gima was given instructions? That being said, there's two lyrics that stood out to me the most. First one being in the pre-chorus.
I'm the only one who loves your sins.
Not only does it obviously speak to Rumi's connection with Jinnu, but also the playbook of cults and the like. Because for people who might be in the margins, for whatever reason, tend to get outcasted even by good members of society, since often affection and association are considered conditional, even by the good people. As long as you're not X, Y, or Z, we're good. So what Saja does is play into your flaws, perceived flaws, and the shame that surrounds it. Whether or not what you did or who you are is actually bad or not, it's just a way to get you in the door. And that gets shaky because to be able to tell who has your best interest in mind and who is, uplifting you versus using you isn't always obvious. The other line that had me thinking was in the rapped verse.
Thank you for the pain, 'cause it got me going viral.
And for some reason, it just reminded me of 12 Stout Street by RX Poppy and Good. Released in 2021, the song had gone viral a few years after it came out. It's a very grim and dark song. Until it blew up, RX Pap was kinda underground. And the trend revolved around the song was very disturbing. People expressing feelings of hopelessness, depression, and looking to buy the farm. Now I'm sure Pat would have preferred one of his more turnt songs to get big. No one really wants to live off of suffering, but often in music, due to its potency and us as people and our propensity towards negativity, it's those songs that tend to perform the best. To output these sorts of songs, the artists have to be in a sort of messed up state already and aren't really allowed to get out of it. How many times have musicians gone through breakups and the people's first reaction, the biggest tweet is, oh, you know the music's gonna be fire, da 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 da. Or how about, I miss so-and-so's old music, and it just so happens to be the stuff that they made during the worst point in their lives. It's kind of messed up, but at the same time, rock bottom, nothing left to lose, and delusion can be the catalyst for breakthroughs, innovation, and the motivation of nowhere to go but up is a strong one, all the while volatile. That's what I got out of that line. Has nothing to do with K-pop at all, but that's the first thing I thought of. Real RX. But granted, it does sort of speak to the greater scope of music and creation as a whole and how we interact with it. I think Your Idol might be my favorite song from the movie because it made so much sense within the narrative. When I heard it the first time, it hit every note I was expecting it to. The chant really does it for me. It's just awesome. And granted, that's just the kind of stuff I prefer.
And now, everyone finally sees you for what you really are.
They do.
And the whole moon is gone.
It is. So we can make a new one.
Our last song is What It Sounds Like, the song that brings Huntrix back together, a clean slate and a reset. The song that leads them to realizing a new Hunmoon based on a new set of values while serving the same function. Rumi, rather than changing who she is, reaches this state of self-acceptance, and after that, the other members can come right back with their testimonies. And the whole idea of the song being harmony, the combination of different sounds, aspects, and things into something beautiful. It's at this point they're able to attain not only symbiosis amongst themselves, but also achieve that critical mass when it comes to the people in their audience. It's the right song. The song to defeat Gima. Not by fighting fire with fire, but through becoming unsusceptible to his influence. No more hiding, no more lies, and the sequence with the audience, illuminated not by their fan lights, but by their own souls, with their energy flowing towards huntrix gathered up in chords, musical chords, where they find themselves surrounded in a rainbow aura, symbolizing, the complexity of experience and existence and how it's different for everybody. And you know what this reminds me of visually and thematically almost too? The Firebending Masters sequence from Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang and Zuko seek out a new drive for firebending after their previous motivations failed them. In a similar series of events, their world's view is challenged and broken. They go on a self-discovery mission, do a fusion dance, come up in a rainbow spiral, and out with a new enlightened perspective. These motifs of being shattered, all those pieces coming together to form something in the bigger picture, persistence, willing to go all the way into the deep end and find the light at the end of the tunnel. A very satisfying end to a fun and engaging movie. After having finished the movie, I continued to reflect on the nature of music, entertainment in general, and of course I already mentioned that a lot already, so here I want to close some thoughts and open up some new ones as well. I'm going to reset this again. Pop it down, boy, like pop. Pop it down, boy, like pop. The contrast between the motivations and the portrayal of the rival K-pop groups has got some interesting layers to it. So let's start off with their emblems. Huntrix's is an interlaced lattice, symbolizing the unity of the members and the fans. It's also reminiscent of the ripple effect of the Hunmoon, but with the ripples interlocking. That's why the realization of division hits when Mira steps on the broken light stick. The lattice shape means binding, such as in physics, but also filtering in the case of a fence or wall, letting certain things in, such as a current of air, or how about the woven structure of a dream catcher, or the breathable quality of a linen weave. Huntrix as a concept is a filter against demons, a protector while letting the freedom of expression pass through their music. Whether you're a fan/believer in them or not, Huntrix protects unconditionally. Putting yourself in harm's way might make their job more difficult, but they won't give up on you if you do. It's a very angelic, seraphim-like quality of them. The Saja Boys, a lion, symbol of protection, and is used for the expulsion of evil during the unified Silla period, where Buddhism was the state religion in Korea, yet something is off with it. They're seemingly perfect individuals who can act out magic in public and just manifest themselves out of thin air. They're slippery and kinda strange. And during the final show, their emblem changes. The lion switches its ears for horns, revealing that they're less lion and more lion with horns. The Joseon Saja, emissary of the underworld, guide of the deceased. A figure dressed in all black hanbok, a demon in the traditional sense, a daemon, guiding spirit. The Grim Reaper of Korean mythology is also what the Saja Boys are, Even the stadium where we have the final act in and that we close the movie on takes the shape of that inverted pentagon. Demons must got some quick construction turnarounds, very impressive. But if you remember the first aerial view of the stadium we get in the intro, it's circular, representing unity, and of course the circle is also a symbol of protection. But it's also just the Seoul Olympic Stadium, which is an arena that has hosted many K-pop acts. There actually was a pentagon-shaped stadium built for the 2018 Olympics, though it was temporary and only used to host 4 events. In terms of appearance and aesthetics, when the Saja Boys aren't being Grim Reapers, they're generally safe and approachable and colorful, while Huntrix appear abrasive and maybe sometimes scary. Approachability being used for deception, and the frightening factor being used to ward off evil. There are many ways to depict and work with the idea of guardians, and Huntrix being very sharp, very caca is one of them. Okay, patterns. Patterns are the things we can't change. Scars don't heal, but they do fade, and the way you are or the things you've done are here to stay, because people don't change.
People don't change. For example, I'm gonna keep repeating, people don't change.
So alcoholics that successfully go through treatment don't exist.
They're still alcoholics. They never take a drink as long as they live, as long as they didn't live long enough.
If you're dissatisfied with your life, changing it is a symptom of mental health. I get why that concept is strange to you.
What you can do is choose to accept them and move on and work around them. You don't need to embrace them. Just don't act like it's not there. Rumi and Jinwoo both thought they could erase the things they were ashamed of, and trying to do that kept them down. Once they accepted who they were and what happened, the patterns don't bother them anymore, and they fade away.
Patterns as behavioral patterns and personal history that can mar the painstaking illusion of perfection. Rumi's concealed markings can represent K-pop idols' current personal lives or histories, as well as any traumas from training and working in the K-pop industry. K-pop gossip and scandals in which artists have done XYZ in their teenage past or in current private lives seem to sprout like weeds regularly. When these catch fire, they can sometimes derail or at least reroute the idols' careers. Members have been removed from groups and rebranded as solo acts or even fired from the companies entirely. Any smoke or fire that can potentially stain the super curated glossy avatar product, dating, eating disorders, drunken behavior, family of origin issues tends to be hidden as thoroughly as possible, and failing that, profuse apologies usually follow. The beautiful superhuman facade sells. It pays for the artist to appear to be free of blemishes. At another layer, there's often a manufactured, perfectly imperfect, real, offstage persona shown in the supplemental K-pop content, the group or idol's YouTube series, interviews, and social media reinforces fan attachment and adoration of the personas. I count actor-actress as yet another part of the K-pop idol's job description. Sadly, their private real-life issues are sometimes held over their heads as threats and puppet strings. In most cases, the pressure to preserve social face and maximize profit for the company keeps the whole K-pop machine churning along, only occasionally leaking secrets and revealing scars.
The theological symbolism in this film pulls from a variety of places. Much like in real life, today in Korea, the primary belief systems are Christianity, Buddhism, and a category called irreligious, which doesn't necessarily mean non-believing, but is a catch-all term for belief systems that don't have a central authority, like Korean shamanism. And we see all of this in the movie. Shamanism depicted through the Hunters, the idea of the Hun Moon, the sort of demonology depicted, the Christian ritual of Requiem with Desiree, and more modern imagery of evil through the subtle insinuation of the inverted pentagram. Buddhism, and even sort of Chinese beliefs through animals, the magpie being a good omen and a messenger, the lion, as mentioned before, and the overall concept of benevolent monsters that aren't inherently good or evil, just beings who dwell on another plane of existence. Derpy and Susie, their real names by the way, are also references to 까치호랑이, a type of minhwa, Korean folk art style that illustrates magpies and tigers. But whatever faith or cultural background you have isn't essential to appreciate the greater aspects of this film, because the reflections on entertainment can be discerned by anyone. Nothing is as unbearable for a man as to be completely at rest, with no passions, no business, no diversion, no work. That is when he feels his nothingness, his forlornness, his inadequacy, his dependence, his weakness, his emptiness. Boredom, gloom, sadness, grief, resentment, despair will swell up from the depth of his soul. Blaise Pascal, a 17th century philosopher and mathematician, during his last years, wrote extensively on the perils of existence. So the goal of releasing a book on Christian apologetics, he died before he could finish it, but posthumously, Pensée was published. And his work ended up being quite influential, not so much towards Christianization, but to philosophy as a whole, and is a bigger part of the French education here. But the relevant parts of this video are his remarks on divertissement, entertainment, diversion, to distract yourself for your own gain/well-being. Even the French word for fun, amusement, amusement, traces its roots to diversion, to muse, muser, presser le museau en l'air, to have your nose in the wind in a sort of gaze. And for Pascal, he says that entertainment is a distraction from negative self-thought. Having been sick during the time he wrote these reflections, alone time and silence had him tortured with the idea of his own mortality. To escape it, you want to not think about it, to distract yourself from it. Divertissement, entertainment. To Pascal, entertainment is your work, hobbies, hanging out with friends, the stuff we imagine in our heads, anything that keeps you from facing yourself and the assault of negative existentialist thoughts. To distract yourself from the human condition is almost essential to achieving a sense of happiness, because without it, all we have is that negativity. Rumi can't take a break because she literally has to face her demons when alone. When our heroes lose their purpose, they are bombarded with that feeling of inadequacy, filled with despair, and it is in that state of mind where they are open to Guima's influence.
There is no we, Zoe. I don't get to have a family.
You're too much and not enough. You'll never belong anywhere, but I can give you a place to belong.
Amusement, muse, music. Music is one of the oldest and most potent forms of diversion, but it doesn't have to just be that, because the muse is also a source of inspiration, something that makes you think, create. It contributes to yourself and your development. Now, within Pascal's framework, this creation might also be considered a form of diversion from our human condition, but in a way, it does help you face the human condition and reflect on it in a manner that feels less hostile, where you can explore the concepts of life, death, the nothingness, all that stuff without tormenting yourself. It's a safe way to experience it. Maslow, Al-Ghazali, Pascal, basically every thinker has some sort of reflection on the human condition, and within theology, there's this idea of reaching an ultimate conclusion, either through enlightenment or salvation, and until you reach that point, you will struggle, even after death, either through rebirth or through another realm. At the end of the movie, Jinnu was able to find salvation through Rumi, after having suffered throughout his life and afterlife, letting go of his earthly attachments and having faith in her, he is able to free himself from Kima and put his soul to rest. It's Jinnu's Requiem. He basically pulled a St. Dismas buzzer beater. Huntrix, our heroes, are also able to achieve a sense of enlightenment. Rumi through self-acceptance, dropping the shame and the lies. Zoe and Mira through conquering their base desires and rejecting them. They're better, strengthened, unified. They're free, weightless. Okay, that's kind of it. All my references and sources are in the description if you want to see them. This book also is one, I guess. Yeah, that's it. Well, you made it to the end of the video. That's quite a feat. This video went way overboard, especially for something out of this channel's scope, but I had written like 5,000 words in the script in a few days, and then spent more time recording and editing over anything, even like researching. So it's gonna be back to like the regular videos, the regular hip-hop videos for a while, because there's a lot to talk about there. No more long vids like this, 30 minutes and under, like max. Baby Goyard is still the most underrated. Che album was fantastic. Yeet EP is good. And Stove God Cooks needs to release an album because clearly the industry is just scared of him and his skill set. So it's been like 5 years. That's crazy. All he's been doing is features. That's insane.